The person who went silent on you is actually the greatest teacher your soul has ever summoned. Right now, you are likely feeling the crushing weight of what we call the agonizing silence. It is that hollow, echoing space where a voice used to be. You check your phone, and the screen is a cold black mirror reflecting only your own desperation. You replay the last conversation, searching for the exact moment the thread snapped. You feel rejected, discarded, and perhaps fundamentally unlovable. But what if I told you that this silence is not a sign that love has failed? What if, in the profound wisdom of Carl Jung, this void is actually the first, most critical stage of true love? Most people flee from this silence. They try to drown it out with noise, rebound relationships, or endless distractions. They see it as a wall, but Jung saw it as a bridge. He believed that we do not fall in love with people. We fall in love with the projections we cast upon them. And as long as those projections exist, we can never see the other person for who they truly are. The silence you are enduring right now is the universe's way of shattering those projections. It is the beginning of a sacred surgery of the soul. Today, we are going to explore why your pain is not an end, but a transition. We will uncover why Jung believed that if you don't pass through this agonizing silence, you will never experience love, only a series of ego-driven illusions. To understand why silence hurts so deeply, we must look into what Jung called the shadow. In the modern world, we are addicted to external validation. We define our worth through the eyes of the beloved. When that person goes silent, it isn't just their presence we lose, it's the version of ourselves that existed in their gaze. This silence triggers a primal, biological terror. For our ancestors, being cast out of the tribe meant certain death. Today, that survival mechanism is hijacked by our emotions. The silence feels like a death sentence because, to your ego, it is. Jung taught us that the shadow consists of all the parts of ourselves we have repressed, denied, or deemed unacceptable. Often, we project our own hidden light or hidden darkness onto our partners. We think they are the source of our happiness, or the only ones who can make us feel whole. When they go silent, the mirror of the relationship is broken. You are suddenly forced to look away from them and turn your gaze inward. This is where the agony lives. Without the noise of their validation, you are left alone with the voices you've spent years trying to ignore. The silence acts as a magnifying glass for your deepest insecurities. You hear the whispers of the unworthy child, the fearful abandoned one, and the shadow self. But here is the Jungian secret. The shadow is not an enemy to be defeated. It is a resource to be integrated. The silence is the only environment quiet enough for the shadow to speak. It is demanding that you reclaim the parts of yourself you gave away to the other person. You didn't lose your other half because you were never half a person to begin with. You are a whole being who has forgotten your own boundaries. The silence is the painful process of remembering. It is the friction caused by your soul trying to detach from an external source of life and finding its own internal heartbeat. Jung famously said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." The silence is that darkness. It is the fertile soil where the seeds of a much deeper, more resilient love are currently germinating, hidden from the naked eye. In the early stages of any romance, it is rarely two souls meeting. It is usually two personas dancing. The persona is the mask we wear to be socialized, to be liked, and to be loved. We show our best angles, we hide our flaws, and we expect the other person to do the same. This is ego love, a love based on transactions, security, and the reinforcement of our self-image. The agonizing silence is the primary assassin of the ego. When you are in the midst of this silence, your ego goes into a frenzy. It tries to negotiate. It wants to send that one last text. It wants to check their social media to see if they are hurting as much as you are. It wants to find a logical reason for the disconnect. This is the ego trying to maintain control. It cannot stand the idea of being powerless. But Carl Jung understood that for the self, the true divine center of your being to emerge, the ego must first undergo a symbolic death. The silence is the executioner. It strips away your pride. It humbles you until there is nothing left but the raw reality of your existence. Think of the silence as a forest fire. To the ego, the fire is a tragedy. Everything it built is turning to ash. But to the forest, the fire is a necessity. It clears the brush, kills the parasites, and releases the seeds that only open under extreme heat. The silence kills the need to be loved by a specific person so that you can develop the capacity to love. As long as you need them to survive, you are a hostage, not a partner. You are using them as a drug to numb your own inner void. The silence forces you to experience that void fully. It is agonizing because the ego is being starved of its supply. But as the ego withers, something else begins to stir. You start to realize that the world hasn't ended. You breathe, you walk, you exist, even without their check-in. This is the beginning of what Jung called the individuation process. You are becoming a distinct individual, no longer defined by your relationship status. You are learning that your value is inherent, not granted. This death of the ego is the most painful part of the journey, but it is the only way to ensure that when you eventually connect with someone again, it won't be out of a desperate hunger, but out of a peaceful abundance. Jung was deeply fascinated by alchemy, not as a way to create physical gold, but as a metaphor for the transformation of the human psyche. The first stage of alchemy is called nigredo, or the blackening. Nigredo is a state of rot, darkness, and disintegration. It is exactly what you feel during the agonizing silence. You feel like your life is falling apart. But in alchemy, if you don't have the nigredo, you can never have the rubedo, the final stage of gold. The silence is the vessel where your soul is being cooked. In this void, a profound chemical reaction is taking place. You are being forced to find your anima or animus. Jung believed that every man has a feminine inner soul, anima, and every woman has a masculine inner soul, animus. Most of the time, we project our anima or animus onto our partners. A man might project his inner peace and emotional depth onto a woman, and then feel he cannot be happy without her. A woman might project her inner strength and protection onto a man, and then feel terrified when he goes silent. The silence is the universe saying, "Stop looking for your soul in another person. It is inside you." By enduring the silence without running away, you are performing the ultimate alchemical act. You are withdrawing your projections. You are realizing that the magic you felt with them was actually your magic, reflected back at you. When you reclaim that magic, the agonizing part of the silence begins to fade, replaced by a strange, quiet power. This is the stage where you stop asking, "Why did they leave?" and start asking, "What part of me was I hoping they would save?" Jung suggested that we are all on a path toward wholeness. Wholeness doesn't mean being perfect, it means being complete. The silence is the period of separation where you gather your scattered pieces. It is the time when you learn to sit with your own boredom, your own grief, and your own joy without needing a witness. In this void, the lead of your attachment is being melted down. The impurities of obsession, jealousy, and fear are being burned away. What remains is the prima materia, the essential soul stuff that is capable of forming a conjunctio, or a sacred marriage. This isn't just a marriage to another person, but a marriage between your conscious self and your unconscious depths. Only a person who has mastered the void can ever truly enter the temple of true love, because they are no longer looking for a savior, they are looking for a peer. We finally arrive at the destination, true love. But it is likely not what you imagined at the start of this video. True love, in the Jungian sense, is the ability for two individuated souls to occupy the same space without consuming each other. It is the end of enmeshment and the beginning of connection. The agonizing silence was the training ground for this. It taught you the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the painful awareness of an absence. Solitude is the joyful awareness of your own presence. When you reach the stage of solitude, you have passed the test. You no longer fear the silence. In fact, you begin to cherish it. And ironically, This is exactly the moment when true love becomes possible, either with the person who went silent or with someone new. Why? Because you are finally visible. When you were hiding behind your persona, trying to please them or control them, they couldn't actually see you. They were only interacting with your mask. Now that the mask has been burned away by the silence, you stand in your raw, authentic truth. A connection born after the silence is a connection based on choice, not compulsion. It is a love that says, I am whole on my own, and you are whole on your own, yet we choose to walk this path together. This is the only kind of love that can withstand the storms of life. It is a love that doesn't panic during moments of distance, because it knows that the void is just a place for growth. Jung believed that the highest form of relationship is one that serves the individuation of both partners. The silence you went through prepared you to be a partner who supports growth rather than one who demands security. You have become a person who can hold space for another's silence because you have learned to master your own. This is the stage one that the title promised. The silence wasn't a wall blocking your way to love. It was the very first step of the staircase. By surviving the silence, you have graduated from the kindergarten of ego infatuation and entered the university of soul connection. If you are currently in the middle of the agonizing silence, I want you to take a deep breath. Understand that you are not being punished. You are being prepared. The universe is not taking something away from you. It is making room for something deeper to arrive. Your pain is the labor pains of a new version of yourself. As Jung once wrote, there is no coming to consciousness without pain, but that pain has a purpose. It is the compass pointing you back to your own soul. Don't rush the silence. Don't try to fill it with meaningless noise. Let it finish its work on you. Let it strip away the illusions. Let it show you who you